Hello. I'm doing a short video today to look at a date in British history. We're going to look at the number of the date. We're going to use kind of the idea, the understanding of number, plus its relationship to these color combination bottles, which have numbers on, and also a little bit of tarot. Tarot cards also have numbers. You'll see the 22 here, for example. So the date we're looking at is 22, 22nd, 6, that's June, 22nd of June, 1772. And we won't worry about the 17, although I could mention it, but 22, 6, 72. Three parts to the date, three numbers we're looking at. Let's begin. First, we're going to look at the 22. Now, this one is less from the number and more from the number association. Because this tarot card, which is expressing yellow-pink, is called the Fool. But if you look closely, it says return, or this idea of rebirth of the Fool. In fact, the bottle is called Rebirth, the Rebirthers bottle. So that's very interesting. Now, you don't know what the date is yet. I haven't told you. The date is the day that 22/6/72 was the day when a British judge, Lord Mansfield, made a judgment in a case about a slave within Britain. He was actually belonged to a slave owner from overseas, but he'd come to Britain. The slave escaped, was recaught, but three people stepped forward and said that they would act as godparents in a way and bring a case to see if this slave could be freed. And that's what happened. It was called the Somerset case, and the verdict came on 22/6/72. And it was an important step. It wasn't the abolition of slavery. It wasn't the abolition of the slave trade. They happened 35, 60 years later. But it was an important stepping stone towards the idea that in Britain, people could not be slaves. So what I want to do is show you the connection between the three numbers, 22/6/72, and the idea of freedom from slavery. That's what I want to do. And the first step of that, the 22, I'm going to use particularly, I'm using these two extra things than a number, the tarot card 22, which is the return of the Fool, and the bottle yellow-pink. You see the colors in the card there. And this is called the Rebirthers bottle. So that's already such an interesting idea, because a slave is born once, and if a person's born, if they go into slavery, in a way, being freed from being a slave is like a rebirth. It's a new beginning, isn't it? So there's an idea of rebirth, name of the bottle, even in the 22, which is the day of the month of the year, 22/6/72. I was also going to say that the Fool, this is the original Fool picture. This is the Fool in the Rider-Waite Tower. You see how similar it is. And here you see the number 0, because in Orosoma they have two versions of the Fool, the 0 and then the 22. The Fool, as a number 0, is the most free of the characters in the tarot deck. Why do I say that? Because the Fool, as the 0, is free to travel everywhere. The 1, the 2, the 3, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, and so on, each of those has a role to play. So in a way, they can't go wandering around the whole of the Tree of Life. This is the Tree of Life here. They can't change their position because they perform a function in the position that they are. But the Fool, as the 0, performs no function, 0 function. And so the Fool is therefore free to travel everywhere, because he doesn't have to, or she doesn't have to be in one place. They can be anywhere. They are like the one who travels through the whole of the tree. So there's also an idea of freedom within the Fool, you see. And the 22 is the rebirth of the Fool. And this is a case about a man who was reborn into freedom. So that's a very fitting beginning. Let's go to the 6. This time it's partly more from the number. So when you think about 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So like you think about the world was created in the Bible, it said the world, everything was created, the creation was created in 6 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you get to the 6th day, how do I say this? With that completion on the 6th day, now things can happen on the earth. In a way, you're building the, before that, you're building the framework, everything's being constructed. On the 6th day, what you have with number 6, there's a number 6 there. What you have with number 6 is the shape of the 0. See the 0 coming to earth. 6 is a 0 coming down. And like a wheel, it can now roll through life. Think about that. The 6, the circle of the 6 is like a wheel, which can then roll through life. So 6 is about action. And so what we have here is the 22, the rebirth of the Fool, the renewed freedom is now able to walk in the world, now able to travel through life, to be grounded in the world and to travel through it. 22:6. So the Fool is reborn and can now travel through the world, through that red base chakra color on the surface of the earth, can now travel through the earth. 22:6. I hope you're buying it. 72. Again, I'm going to talk more about the colors this time than about the number per se. Although what you could say is, like, you've got the question of two-ness in the background there, and whether it's, owner and slave, or whether it's what I would suggest in this case is that, you see, when I first thought about this, I thought about blue and orange as to do with, well, blue is to do with kind of leadership. And one of the aspects of leadership is authority, which would be like a slave owner. Because when a slave owner tells a slave to do something, when they use their voice to tell the slave to do something, then the slave, who is orange, dependent on their owner, has to do what the owner tells them. So the one who's dependent, orange, is dependent. It has to follow the voice of the master, orange to blue, you see? Orange to blue. So that is the interesting idea in relation to slavery and ownership, owners. But here's the thing. So in a way, what I was going to say initially was that, like, there was in this case, this judgment in 1772 was a case that restored some balance, made an equality between the owner and the slave. So that was my first thinking about this. But actually, there's a kind of a bigger picture here, which is that the judge actually was actually not really in favor of abolishing slavery, and he was a bit concerned. He did say something about, whatever consequences flow from my decision today. So he was a bit worried about the judgment he was making. But what he felt he had to do was to respect the rule of law. And we can say that blue is about law. Because if you go back far enough, the idea of the voice of God or the king, because the king, and even today, the king or the queen would be the one whose words carried in a way, the will of God. It was the words of the ruler who created the law. And even today, while we have a democracy in Britain and we vote for our members of parliament, every act that's created by Parliament has to receive what's called the royal assent. That is, the word of the monarch, was the queen, now is the king, who gives power to that law by saying yes to it. So even today in Britain, we have this idea of the rule of law tied up with the speaking, it's like tied up with the blue. Law and order. In England, we talk about law and order, and blue is about creating order. So what you have in this picture, what I think is maybe a more accurate than like relationship between owner and slave, is the rule of law, blue, over the whole of the community, orange. Everyone is equal in orange under the law of blue. So that's how I'd see the 72 actually. more accurately. From the point of view of the judge, he wasn't necessarily wanting to free slaves, but he felt honor bound to respect the law above any individual within society. So 22:6, 22, the rebirth, being reborn into freedom. 22, to walk upon the earth. 6, thanks to the rule of law under which everyone is equal underneath. So that's my 22:672. I hope you liked it. Do a thumbs up, make a comment. That will help my channel, my YouTube channel, help me to make more of these videos for you. And I'm promoting a course I'm teaching called Know Your Numbers, which starts next Saturday week, 29th of October. You can email me or Facebook, dominicyeoman@gmail.com. The address will be in the notes with the video. And I'm teaching about the meaning of numbers and how to combine the numbers, which are the foundation for being able to look at dates such as this. So thank you very much, and until next time. Thank you.